Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by TIE Software, the battle station for freight brokers. Your TMS should be viewed as a tool to help you execute at a high level in any freight market. With TIE, brokers gain access to a comprehensive platform that has rate intelligence and quoting history converged down to a single screen. TIE also equips your team with all the data they need to confidently negotiate pricing while also allowing them to communicate directly with both carriers and customers from a single command center. With most of your tasks automated through multiple integrations, your team can focus on making strategic decisions and not manual ones. Are you looking to revolutionize your brokerage by giving them a competitive advantage through automation? Visit www.tiesoftware.com/battlestation to learn more. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 in Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. All right, I got a very special guest. I'm just going to bring him up right away here, you guys. I have had him on the show in the past, and seeing what meeting him in person a couple of times and what his family has done to build up their fleet out there. And I wanted to bring him on to talk about what he's experiencing in his company and what's going on in the industry and where things are. So I got my friend Harman Cheema with Cheema Freight Lines on the show. So Harman, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey Chris, thanks for having me again.
No, man, it's a pleasure, dude. It's been a while. We text back and forth every once in a while. We stay in contact, and it's I always appreciate your time and your perspective on things, and especially knowing your family's history and building up your guys' company and everything out there, man. So that grit and resilience it's very evident out there.
Thank you.
So what's new, man? What's been going on? Let's get everybody caught up with Cheema, because you guys are making moves out there. I will say that I'm about to start snapping you photos every time I see a Cheema truck out here on the 202 in Arizona.
I would say, a lot of people have been asking me that lately, and I just the one thing I keep saying is we're fighting the trucking fight right now, right? Mm-hmm. And so yeah, we're doing good. We're the largest we've ever been as a fleet and as a brokerage. As well ever. So, but that means we need the most amount of loads we've ever needed, the most amount of just freight and morale and everything to keep everybody boosted right now through all of it, right? Because it is a fight right now in the industry, and there's no secrets there. You can read them online. You can check out the public companies. You can do all that. I mean, we're all kind of fighting the same fight here, and with each other, all of the above, right? So, yeah. But as far as Cheema goes, yeah, we're kicking butt. I think we're going to be, I'm confident we're going to be a step above a lot of folks when we come out of this freight recession or whatever you want to call it nowadays, right? Mm-hmm. But we're We're taking names and we're building our team. That's what we've been focused on: training, building the team, getting some systems in place, whether it's phone systems or just better technology, and get ready. Get ready for the opportunity and just kick ass. Don't wait for it and then start working on it. So that's what we've been working on at Cheema.
Is that something that now that you're kind of attacking that, you wish you would have done, a few years ago to kind of prepare for that stuff? Because I think like it's always easy to sit back and Monday morning quarterback a lot of these situations that go on in the world, right? But it's like, when you're in the actual trenches trying to make those decisions, I don't think a lot of people actually understand that the majority of the time you're literally just trying to fight to survive. And especially when you own as many assets as you guys do, and you guys are as big as that you guys are, like it is, it's a constant battle, right? Like there's no one time where I'm sure, I mean, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, where you can sit back or your leadership team can sit back and be like, damn, we're in such a great place right now. We have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, I think one thing I definitely learned. So we've been in business 18 years now, and we're just approaching 500 company trucks, 2,000 trailers. We got some owner operators. We got a brokers that's doing about 3,000 to 3,500 loads a month, and
Mhm.
everybody's fighting to get bigger, right? Because that's what we've been doing. That's the culture we've built. But at the same time, what I've learned over the last few years, especially this year, I think this has been the toughest year for me, just because of, I mean, you work your ass off for tiny margins or no margins. It's like, man, what's the reward? And then, just the economical doom and gloom of the world, right? That puts people down in a way. And so it's like, man, all I can do right now is just keep the morale up, keep the rallying up, and just tell people, show the light at the end of the tunnel as much as I can. Well, I don't have a crystal ball either, right? So kind of fighting that. But at the same time, what I've learned is you can't be in trucking and make it like your passive income. It's not real estate, right? You got to be 110% in, whether it's trucking or brokerage or logistics from an ownership standpoint. I think that's why some of the big private equities or the big passive owners don't do so well, and you see their results and then they exit, because this isn't a game of just buy it and hopefully it'll appreciate. There's no appreciating here. Everything's a depreciation, right? So got to be 110% in, Chris. That's what I've learned.
And I see that, right? And I think that has kind of been almost glamorized. And this isn't necessarily a trucking thing. I think that this is almost like entrepreneurship as a whole, like, oh, passive income this and passive income that. And, I know somebody's gonna be like, oh, well, multiple seven streams of yada, yada, yada. But I'm like, anybody who out there, like a lot of the guys that I follow who have built real things, they're like, yes, I do have multiple streams of income now. But for the first 15 years, I had
Right.
one. I had my one business, and then we diversified. Where I think a lot of people get in, they're like, "Oh, I'm going to passively do 7 different things," and like you're just half-assing everything. And that's honestly, man, that's something that I've been really battling with here in 2024 is that exact term, half-assing things, because it's like I got to the point where I feel like I was stretched too thin. I wasn't able to fully commit to things at the level that I want to. So it's like, man, I had to really adopt my new favorite word in the English language, which is no. No, I can't. No, I can't do that. And and it's really tough when you go and build something from day one, dollar one. Because in the back of my mind, Harman, all times it goes back to when I was in my bedroom when I first started doing everything. I go back to that, man, when nobody wanted to talk to me. Nobody wanted to give me the time of day. And now that things are kind of up and running and the brand is what it is, and like it's a lot different than what it was. It's very hard, but I also need to keep my eye on the prize here because, like, dude, you're right. This isn't a passive thing, man. You got to really be fully invested in this 24/7, 365.
Yeah, hell yeah. And I hope, I know we're talking about kind of the state of the business a little bit today, but I hope there's some motivation for a lot of the entrepreneurs that are in this business as well to just, hey, we're in August, we're almost in, I mean, we're in September in a few days here. We've
Mhm.
always almost made it through this year. The next year is going to be bright. We got to make it brighter, and we got to work together to just help the industry, and let's keep going, right? Rally your teams and get them pumped up. And if you're down, right, everybody looks up to leadership, and if
Mhm.
they're feeling the blues, then what's that going to do to the rest of your team, right? I was talking to a friend of mine earlier, before we got on this call, and he was kind of feeling the same way. He's in a different industry, and I pumped him up, and I was like, dude, look. He's like, man, I just want a Porsche one day, and I was like, you gotta aim for the black jet, man. That should be the goal.
Oh yeah.
Because I've been talking to I got a customer that's in the healthcare space, and they make a lot of medical products, and they've just been killing it, right? and they are looking forward to the next 15, 20 years. And I'm like, why? He goes, well, that's when all the baby boomers are going to get old. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, perfect, because how many billionaires are baby boomers right now? And there's new billionaire entries are gonna come in, and I want to make sure I want to be one of those guys and take that over, right?
Dude, I'm right there with you, man. Like, I got a Gulfstream G7 matte black with orange hashtag the freight coach on the side of it in my vision, man. That's literally, it's funny you bring that up because it's the truth, man. Like, I think, like, set extremely lofty goals no matter what, but then don't overlook what you have to do on the day to day. It's funny, because the book behind you there is I'm a major fan of Brad Jacobs. I'm a fan of that book. Like, I see it. I look at it as the way that, you see a guy like him who, seemingly built up everything by him. I don't want to say himself, because he talks about teams and systems and everything, and there are a lot, but like, he started with nothing essentially. And if he was able to do it, and what we're going through right now, ultimately, this isn't an anomaly. This isn't like the first time there's been challenging times and and everything else. And I think that it's so easy to kind of get caught up in it. And we all do, right? We're all human beings. But like, at the end of the day, it's like, all right, you just gotta, like, when things are really in those challenging moments, for me, it's like, man, I just look at the task in front of me, the next hour of my day, and I'm just like, all right, I just got to execute on that. And if I do that every single day, it's those small little incremental bumps every single time. But like, someone's going to come out of this a winner, a major winner. And then you're going to look back in 5 years and be like, 2020 to 2024, that is the period that made me.
That's right. That's right. So, that's what makes us stronger, right?
Dude, I agree, man. So like, how are things from, because I think you see a lot of, the publicly traded, companies in freight, their results. You see a lot of brokers out there, and there's always that brokers take all the money nonsense, and and everything else that goes on.
That was true.
Yeah, it is, man. Yeah, we just print money and take 80% margins, and that's just how it's done. But how are you approaching things right now, especially because as we are coming up into the end of 2024, bid season is going to be upon us. It's probably already started with some companies that are out there. How do you guys approach that?
So the positive news is we're starting to see some momentum in certain markets, right? I spent the last 2 weeks with our VP of sales, Lars, who I think he's been on your show as well. So we spent the last couple of weeks on the road. First, Chris, this props to you for the motivation. Spent the last 2 weeks on the road, getting up, working out every morning, cutting the drinks, cutting the bullshit, and then going and rocking it away, right? And so we've had some good momentum. We met a lot of customers, existing customers, some new ones. While we were on the road, we were still getting emails for requests of things that are moving around, or carriers or brokers falling off of lanes, which is kind of the first sign of improvement, right? And so we picked up some stuff with some big customers that we've been chasing for a while at better rates. And so that's the first step. So I'm very bullish on that, but we got to be careful because it's not busy everywhere. It's only busy in certain markets, and it could be busy because of certain things, right? So all in all, I think this RFP cycle that just actually already started, we're starting to see some RFPs come through now. And last RFP cycle was hell for me. We did almost 200 something RFPs. And we needed freight, right? We just needed to bring it all in, and then we'll kind of figure it out. And that was kind of the model there. But this year we're going to get very strategic on who we're partnering with and try to build more density with some of the core and strategic customers. But for us, I'm still not seeing a lot of motivation for increases. We need the increases, but we're definitely not going backwards. And that's made that very clear to our customers. We just can't, right? We're gonna have to start walking away from business. I know big companies have been doing that this year, but I think they know that. And the message from the last couple of weeks with some of my customers was they kind of know that, and they're starting to prepare into next year, into early next year, that there's going to be some increases. Because at the end of the day, if our costs are $220 a mile is what A-Tree put out, which is kind of true where a lot of companies are running, we can't be operating at $2 a mile, right? It's just not. How long can we do that?
Yeah. And that, that's really interesting. So, you're talking about, being more strategic in your business approach here, in your business development approach. Are you guys only dry vans, or do you guys have any other equipment on your guys' fleet?
So we're only dry van. Even on our brokerage, we're primarily dry van. We do a little bit of flatbed, but mostly just dry van. But we're gonna probably try to open into another mode into our on our brokerage offering at least, right? Maybe refrigerated or something to get our feet wet in there a little bit. But we're still gonna focus on the core, what we know the best, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, we wanna on the brokerage side, we want to expand into more geography. On the truck side, we want to continue to build the density on some of the weaker lanes we have and just continue to build that. But don't really plan on adding assets at this moment. Gonna kind of fine tune what we're doing today and just get them up. There's still a lot of trucks that are underperformers on my fleet that we need to continue to move up and get them more miles.
How do you assess an underperforming unit on your fleet then? Are you looking at it? Is it more driver centric? Is it load volume centric where you got to get out there and pound the pavement and get more customers? Is that what you mean by that?
It's a little bit of both. So I get my green bar report printed to me every Monday, and I'm just kidding. It comes on the email. It should, but and it basically I have a thing that says any trucks under 2,300 miles I want on the report, and then I will send it to the directors of the areas that are in charge of those and say, hey, why, and they go through and just say, okay, this guy was off, this guy's this, and we're constantly working every week to drive that number of unproductive or the number of under 2,300 mile trucks down, right? And then we know we're improving. So that's what we started doing, and with that, it's been a network, right? It's been a network change, and it's very hard to develop and develop new networks or make networks strong when the market is busy here, slow here, busy here, slow here, and it feels like every week it's up and down, and that's the biggest struggle that we've been facing all year. And bringing on new business when it's slow here is going to be very difficult. When it's busy here, you can start picking that up, right?
Mm-hmm. Are you guys more regionally focused with your assets, or do you guys kind of run all, the lower 48? Because that's one thing that I see out there a lot in the owner operator community and the smaller fleet communities is they're like, oh, we'll run anywhere as long as it pays. Did you guys do that at one point and gravitate away from that, or have you guys always been regionally focused?
So we have always been regionally focused. We visited a big customer last week, and we don't do business with them, but we've been selling them for a while now and trying to and this big national retailer, right? And it was cool to hear that because we've been working on this for 5 or 6 years. They were like, "Hey, when we think of I-5, we think of Cheema, even though you don't do any business with us." So that was our first region was develop I-5. Now, if you drive I-5 between Washington to San Diego or Southern California, you will see a Cheema truck within a few minutes of each other, and that's the density we built. And so the next steps are, Arizona's huge for us as well. You probably see trucks down there all the time. But we're primarily the 8 Western states and into the San Antonio and Dallas market as well. So we're kind of doing this funky thing right now. But I like to be I don't want to be a jack of all trades, a master of none, right? I want to master lanes before we continue to move everywhere. And it keeps the trucks close, keeps the drivers close to get them home. And if something goes wrong, there's a truck within, an hour or 20 minutes of each other. So that's kind of been the strategy.
So are you guys applying that in your brokerage as well? Are you taking that same strategy, or is it a different strategy inside of your brokerage? Are you guys kind of calling everywhere?
Not everywhere because we're calling on the markets we know. So
Okay.
definitely overlap our truck line market because we know it's second nature and we know the carriers that are here that we can, you got a load for me. I know exactly who to call and I can probably get it covered within a few minutes, right? So that's the bigger strategy. But as we geographically develop into new areas, we want to get really good and get our reps that know those markets. If it's Kansas City, Texas, or wherever in the Midwest, just get really good at those lanes and build the density there.
Mm-hmm. Now, would you recommend fleets and even owner operators, we'll go back, would you recommend that they adopt more of that strategy into building their business? Do you think that would help them get more direct customers? Because, again, and I'm kind of bringing in the whole people hate brokers, right?
Right.
But it's also, well, if you want direct freight, how do I go about it? That's probably a question that I get from a lot of owner operators and small trucking companies all the time is, hey, like I've tried to get direct customers, but I'm too small. Nobody wants to work with me. Do you think that they stick to that right now? Would you recommend that?
I think it's a fine line. Right now, it's get any customer you can, right? Whether even if it's a broker that can help pay the bills. But I think what's I can speak for myself, and what was successful for us is we teamed up with some bigger fleets that had brokerage divisions, that had power only divisions, and just built good relationships with them, right? We knew they were going to make, I don't know, 10, 15, 20% margin, 18% margin, whatever, right? They're going to make it, but they typically have better paying freight because it's kind of like our strategy, right? Our overflow of our fleet is going to be better than the one-off spot stuff, right? And so we built some consistency around that, and I think that's good. I'm seeing that. I'm seeing a lot more people pulling Warner trailers and US Express trailers and all these bigger power only networks now, right? Because I think they should totally leverage those, but at the same time, don't leave when the market goes crazy. Build those relationships and keep working on them. And at the end of the day, I think customers, they say less brokers, they say all those things, but they want to consolidate providers. They don't want to have 350, 400 providers. They want to have 50 to 100 good ones. And they'll allow companies like us to say, hey, yeah, you can use your brokerage arm when you need to, or you can use a power only solution, or you can use your trucks once we build that relationship. So for owner operators, I would just say, you can continue to work on the direct freight, but it's going to be very tough, especially if you're going for the big shippers. But if you got some smaller mom and pop or medium sized ones that you can see, focus on the area that you can come back to and service them over and over, right? With a single truck, how many times can you possibly load for that shipper, right? So you got to be cautious of that. If you're over here in Pennsylvania and the shipper's in California, then how many times are you going to make back to California that month to do another load for them? And is it worth their while to give you 2 loads a month versus they can give somebody 10 or 15 a week, right?
Yeah, I think that's it's a big challenge and balance for, I think, a lot of providers out there, whether you're a broker or a carrier, because it's like, a lot of the large enterprise shippers, as you know, I mean, you are a formidable fleet, man. And you guys, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, are not, like you said, you were prospecting somebody for 5 years and you're not working with them. So you guys probably deal with a lot of the same rejections as everybody else does. It doesn't matter if you have 500 trucks, right? Like, it doesn't matter that, I mean, what do you guys have? Probably 1,000 trailers at least?
2,000.
2,000, yeah. So you got 500 trucks and 2,000 trailers, and you still get hit with, we're not adding anybody to our network, right?
Yep.
But that doesn't deter you or your sales staff from going out there and trying to continue to develop business, because in my mind, man, it's only a matter of time, right? Like, it's only a matter of time. And as a business owner, I want everybody to know what I do, right? Like, ultimately, I want everybody to know what I do, especially here in Arizona, especially in every single market that we're in, right? Because, like, dude, I've been fortunate to get a couple of customers off of this podcast, right? So it's like there's other parts of the country, and we're trying to be as strategic as possible as we're trying to build it up. But again, like, we're in that phase of building where we got a couple of like really core customers that give us a lot of our volume, but like, we can't stop selling, like, we got to continue to go out there. But the door gets shut a lot. But like, I'm finding out there right now that people are more open to quality conversations than I think a lot of people are really getting out there. And I think it always boils down to doing your homework on the person that you're calling. So how do you guys prepare for that as you're going out there and prospecting new shippers?
So it's gotten a lot easier as the brand has gotten bigger, right? So that definitely helps. We're getting a lot more, hey, yeah, let's talk. We don't have an opportunity today, but we definitely want to hear what you guys are doing. And okay, I love this part, Chris. Over my last couple trips, one customer told me, hey, I saw you on LinkedIn and doing this, and you guys are making a lot of noise on LinkedIn or on YouTube or online, right, on social media. But I was like, and then I went back, I told Lars, I was like, this guy doesn't like any of my posts. He doesn't like any of this stuff. So shippers are always watching, and I don't blame them why they're not doing that, right? Because it's going to be like a swarm of bees after them. But I was like, people are watching, right? We got to keep doing what we're doing. Sales and marketing are, marketing is sales and sales is marketing, right?
Yeah.
So you got to keep doing that. And you may not be able to crack the code today, but you can only sell something when there's a need for that product, right? I'm not going to go buy something today if I don't need it, but when I need it, if you're still there, I'm going to look at it, right? So there's no different, nothing's different about that in our space as well, right? So you just got to stay after it and stay in front of them.
And I think that there you almost need to have the mentality is like, I mean, you're not going to set up everybody you talk to, right? But like, you need to I think business development people only think closing, making money. They've missed the second half of that term, development. Like, you have to develop customers, and there is no shortage of people that are out there calling. I mean, dude, every time I call somebody, or not every single time. I get called out because I use too many blanket statements. But the reality is, when I'm calling and when I'm speaking to people, like I hear this very often. Hey man, you're like the seventh one to call us today, right? Like call us back in a couple and we're good. Or, we've been working with the same provider for 10 years. We're not going to add you, and everything else. So it's like, you get beat down over that. But again, man, like I've just adopted the mindset where it's like, man, I'm one phone call away. I'm one introduction away. I'm one meet away from changing my life with anybody, right? And I think that, you have to approach it like that in any market. And I think that what a lot of people need to understand, though, most importantly, is how they're operating right now, whether it's business development, fiscally, budgetary, all of that. That's how you have to operate when things are good, because otherwise you get to that point where you're reckless in your approach. And I've learned that over the last couple of years, man. When revenue's up, fuck, you think you are king shit.
Yeah.
And you spend at a higher level, and then reality sinks in and you're like, fuck, I'm overextended. And then you got to make a bunch of cuts and everything. So I think it's good to go through that and make those changes, because otherwise you'd never know. But I think that's how you have to approach things, because in my opinion, man, you're never good in business. You never have enough customers or enough revenue.
Yeah, and that's something we've definitely focused on, was staying disciplined on that. And some of our competitors didn't, and they've kind of gone away or they've shrunk big time, and we see that, right? So, but we got to stay focused and continue to go down that road. But at the end of the day, it's a numbers game, right, Chris? Like you got to be talking to 100 different people all the time to break into 4 or 5 or 3, right? And so it's just a numbers game, and don't forget about the other 80 that you talked to that were kind of potentially hot, or that you had a good conversation with. You got to like stay in front of them, right? And even if it's just and I hate the following up here, don't do that crap, right? Just stay real and say, hey, how's it going, what's going on, right? Those things. So
yeah, dude, I just try and keep it as simple as I possibly can. And, because mainly this is just who I am as an individual, right? Like I am just calling to introduce myself. And I'm just searching for a yes. I feel like as a business development rep, I'm just searching for a yes. And it might not be a yes today, but I'm just like, oh, you work with brokers? You do full truckload? Perfect. We'll talk later then, and I'm trying to read the conversation. And then again, you build that up. And I think that most people need to get away from that. Oh, just following up, or, hey, how's the weather out here and stuff.
Yeah.
I hate that stuff. And it's super awkward. And again, I look at it as a lot of the conversations that I'm having with people at these stages, I'm throwing them off in the middle of their workday. I don't want to waste their time. Just like for me, when I'm in the zone, when I'm at my workstation, man, when I'm out here doing I don't want my time wasted either. So, again, I'm not trying to make anybody sound more important than the next, but dude, I got a family to feed. You got a family to feed. You got a business to run. Time is everything. And you got to go in there and you got to hit them with the right information. And then if it's not there, boom, you got to move on. And I think like that's the mentality. At least that's what I'm working through and trying to, develop as I'm trying to build my business up.
Yeah, and I think one thing I always tell my sales reps, or even others that I'm talking to that I'm friends with, is no offense on this statement that I'm about to say, but at the end of the day, when we're coming up, and I'm sure you're in the same boat, Chris, is if we didn't sell, we didn't eat. There is no revenue coming in. There is no base salary. There is none of that. Like you got to go hunt or to eat. Simple as that, right? So then I was turning every rock over to see, okay, who makes this, writing them down at night or whenever, and then going and following up and calling to get in. And I had no idea. And guess what? We didn't have freaking LinkedIn in 2006. It just came out right after that. And it's made it so easy to see who's where. We were calling people. We're reaching out to the city chamber of commerces to get contacts, like the old school way, which I still do that and it still works sometimes. But like when LinkedIn came out, I was like, holy crap, this directory of, even though it doesn't have emails and numbers, but I know who to call now versus just fishing in the dark or shooting, darts in the dark to figure out who to get to, right?
Yeah. And I think that, I'm just like, that's my mentality, man. Like I've been self-employed now for over 4 years, right? So like, I don't have a salary. I don't have, it's me. It's dollar in, dollar out. It's hunt. It's kill or be killed, essentially, is what it boils down to. And that's the way that I approach it. And that's the level of urgency that I bring in intensity that I try and bring every single day with it. Because like I view it like this. And I think that a lot of small businesses are in this boat, whether they want to admit it or not. I think most small businesses, and hell, probably even most established businesses, are realistically 30 days from running out of cash every month. So it's like every time I come in, you know, on the first of the month or whatever that is, man, I'm like, all right, I'm 30 days away from being broke, you know? I'm like, I got to go out there. I got to make shit happen, you know? So it's like when I see people comment, like, how do I show up every single day and do podcasts? This is how I support my family. I take this shit very seriously, you know? So it's like, and then what else am I going to do? Sit at home? It's like, fuck that, dude.
Yeah, that's right. And it's so easy to start falling on the other side and get all, you know, doomy and gloomy, right? Just got to snap out of it and let's go, right? Rally it up.
Dude, and that's exactly it. And that's why I do not pay attention to like industry headlines very much anymore because of that. Because I started to realize a pattern out there. And again, like I get it, you know, clicks get, you know, revenue and everything else. But like, I'm like, man, I can't pay attention to this shit, man. I got a family to feed. Like if I paid attention to every headline out there, whether it's industry or mainstream media, dude, I might as well crawl in a fucking hole, you know, because there's no light at the end of the tunnel if you get too far into it. But I'm like, man, I just try and minimize as many distractions as possible and lock in. And then, you know, some days are really good. Some days are not so good, but I'm going to show up tomorrow. And, you know, I got the rest of the day today too, but like, I'm going to show up, I'm going to put the work in.
That's right. And, you know, one thing I want to make sure I point out is when you're hunting, you got to hunt. And when you're thinking about calling somebody, pick up the phone and call them. Don't think. Pick up the phone and figure it out, because while you're figuring out, you're thinking about it, Brad Jacobs' team at RXO is already calling them, right? Whatever, right? So your competition's already calling. So pick up the damn phone and make those calls, or figure out who the email is and get in front of them, fly over, whatever it takes, right? Make it happen.
Dude, I love it. I'm right there with you, man. I'm jacked up and I'm ready to go. I was making calls. I was actually making calls before this call, before our podcast today, because I'm like, I got to get fucking in the zone for this stuff, man. So I rocked out a couple before, and no, man, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to make some more calls. And I got some site visits lined up here locally in Phoenix today as well. And I'm going to, man, just going to get out there and try and make it happen. All you got to do is shake more hands, right?
That's right.
Man, Harman, that's already, I got to get you back on, man. That was 30. I feel like we could go for another 2 hours here. If you guys are hiring, or if you guys have any announcements, drop them in there right now. How does anybody reach out to you guys to find out more?
Find us on LinkedIn, send me a message, send Lars a message. We're looking for hunters, just like everybody else. We are looking for the people that are serious, that want to make a lot of money, that want to blow this thing up, right? It's slow right now. You're not going to make a lot of, you're not going to get a lot of customers just yet, but we got to get ready, and we got to get, you know, dialed in to take it over. So that's what we're looking for.
Harman, thank you so much for reaching out. If you guys can't find Harman or Lars or anybody at Cheema, just hit me up. I'll gladly put you guys in contact with my friends over there. But as always, if you guys got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. I'm going to save the rest of the intro because I got some guests that are going to come on, and we're going to drop some truth on everybody here. But with that being said, I got my friends over at eCarrier Check on the show today to break down building up a sales pipeline and everything. So Jared, Nate, welcome to the show.
What's up, brother? How are you, man?
I'm doing good. I'm intoxicated by that Nolan Ryan jersey behind you right there, man. That old school Astros look is just, dude. That too. That too, dude. I love it, and I love that pink too, Jared. That's a good color for you, man. You got to keep that every day.
It brings out my eyes.
It does, dude. I can see that from here, actually. So, man, what's been going on in the great state of Nebraska besides the Cornhuskers just coming out of the gate?
You know, honestly, Nebraska, really all we have is corn and the Huskers.
That's all we need.
This is all we need. This is all we have.
We got beer and bratwurst and cheese, and that's about it. And then Packers.
Yeah, and the Packers, exactly. So yeah, there's not much out here. Yeah. You know, Nebraska is just notorious for just kind of steady Eddie and just kind of keep going. You know what I mean? The workforce in Nebraska is amazing. I really love this state. It's really, outside of real estate taxes, wonderful state to be in.
Yeah, Clark, nobody cares about Ohio State, all right? He's an Ohio State fan, all right?
Oh, he's an OH guy. I mean, OH. Yeah.
That's what I say to Ohio State. Anybody. They're the worst, man. They're like the plague, dude. They're just fucking everywhere. I'm just kidding. I love Clark. But, dude, what? So, you know, we're at that great point of the year where everybody starts to realize, like, holy shit, I'm so behind on sales and business development, and everything else. And then, where do I go? Where do I start? And, you guys released, which, I mean, I use your guys' tool for the shipper guy. You can put the real name out there because I always forget. I just know that it's the $ one in my book when I go out there, because, the leads that come from that, and, because the ability to source shippers and find lead generation and everything else and kind of where to start, you guys are attacking that from kind of both sides, right? And finding capacity, but also finding shippers as well with that.
Yeah. I honestly, when we started to build eCarrier Check, which by the way, we're about to come up on our 5-year mark. I'm excited about that. Having the 5-year coin is kind of cool.
Hell yeah.
But, our ultimate goal was to really help people be a standalone on their own, without load boards, without having that ability. We really wanted to give you the ability to kind of go find some carriers, go find some, clients, and go make a living. Go do what you need to do.
And never have to pass up an opportunity either.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly it. And so, because like on your guys' show, are you guys still doing live cold calls on the show to shippers?
Yeah. We have one that's releasing last week. We actually just did one this week. It was out of control. One of the I think I did like a 20-minute cold call. This lady told me everything. I mean,
really,
it was the most amazing call ever. I swear to God, you're only as good as the questions you ask. And this lady just opened it up, man. It was incredible.
Dude, and that's exactly it, right? Because I think like, there's such a false sense of instant gratification in business development, right? I mean, Jared, you get this because like you started your business, right? Like, what day one $1 was like, right? And just like I do, I know what day one $1 was like, and how eventually you kind of hit that wall of, fuck, nobody's going to come develop business for me. If I want to, stay in bed, I got to make money. I got to get revenue. But the best way to go about it, and, I put a post up the other day about this, like the anxiety is real. Like, I don't care who says anything. If you're not getting a little bit of anxiety when you're about to go out and talk to complete strangers and to develop business, I think you're a fucking psychopath for starters. But, on top of that though, like, for me, it's like you got to build up, right? Like I look at it, again, just like in your business and my business, man, it all started with one, then one turned into two to four to every, I went to public school, so I'll stop trying to double my math at that point. But, I just look at it as like you got to start somewhere, but then again, you start and then you build that process around that. And then you just find yourself and you follow that routine, because eventually, I mean, dude, I have bad days too, where the first couple of calls, I'm like, who the fuck am I? Like, I'll say something and be like, what the fuck was that? But you got to break through that and keep following that process, because by sometimes the 10th, 15th call, you're in the zone and you're flowing, you're able to build up and pick up on those conversations. Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, if you're finding yourself lost in phone calls, I mean, where we live, you can't really go out and shake hands because we're in a small area. But if you live in an area that's prime, take a break from phone calls and go shake some hands too. And that'll give you some anxiety, but oh well, you got it anyways.
Dude,
go ahead.
No, you go.
I was gonna say, honestly, I think building your pipeline is probably one of the most interesting, just parts of all of sales. We start with a lot of people that are fairly new at eCarrier Check, and these cats are like, yeah, I just need to call Walmart and I'm going to be good, and we had another cat that came on and he's like, I'm just going to start calling like all these like restaurants, like P.F. Chang's, they got freight, and I'm like, I don't know how that's going to go, and so I think what I really like to do is just kind of slow people down and make sure that we're calling the right people. Getting the right people on your pipeline is the first step to life here. And you and I've talked about this. I've known you for my entire freight software career, which I love. Like, I think I launched freight, like eCarrier Check, and then I met you like 6 months in. And it was like my north shining star. I friggin' loved every second of it. But we've said this from the beginning. Find a niche.
Yeah.
And stick with it. And those niches don't have to be industry specific. It can be equipment. It can be a region of the country. It can be just, it can be something like that. And I think that's where, when you get into your pipeline and your pipeline management, you got to put the right people on your list, because calling P.F. Chang's ain't going to work.
Dude, I think that, again, I look at it as, if like based on what are your current capabilities too. Because a lot of these large customers, because everybody wants the Walmarts of the world, but could you even make a dent in what they actually do in a day? And then, because it's like, again, it's like if they turned you on and they dropped 100 loads on your load board or your TMS the next day, are you going to be able to actually do that if there's one of you? No, you're not, right? So it's like, why? And I'm not saying don't shoot for the moon. Go for anybody, right? Like, do your thing. But you have to understand, who are you actually able to accommodate from their freight needs and everything else. And then, again, here's another massive, this might be an eye opener for a lot of you. It takes years to prospect and onboard accounts of that magnitude, right? So if your strategy is, I'm just going to call Walmart and Coca-Cola and then they're just going to get me set up and then I'll be fine, you're going to wait 36 to 72 months before they might even remotely take your phone call at that point, right? So again, it's like, who are you going after? And then building up that pipeline on top of that, like I talk about owning your backyard. And that's something that we, again, I try to be as transparent as possible. I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody what's in my bank account or anything like that, which, newsflash, I'm a startup, so you can fucking do the math on that. But we wasted so much time going after the wrong business. We wasted so much time emailing people when we shouldn't have, because I got caught up in that bug, and I've admitted that, and I will openly admit that because I'm not perfect. But over these last 90 days, man, we just went straight back to the basics. Cold calls, pounding the pavement, getting out there and talking to local providers, local shippers, and everything else. It's been a massive game changer, and I don't just cold show up anywhere. I just, out of respect for people's time, I like to give a heads up. I like to call people on Tuesday and say, hey, I'm going to, are you open on Thursday for me to stop by at 10 a.m., drop off a business card and introduce myself. And it's the feedback is exponentially higher on doing it that way than any other method for business development at that time. And I want to challenge everybody out there to do that, right? Everybody in your area should know who you are. Everybody should.
Yeah. Absolutely. To have a presence, not only geographically, but over the phone. I mean, absolutely. And I love how you said getting back to the basics. Honestly, we hear both sides of the story. And I'll give you an example. When nobody could find a friggin' truck, they were calling us. And now when nobody can find a shipper, they're calling us, right? And I think what's interesting right now is, man, I tell you what, people need value right away. And so going back to the basics, tell them what you do and how you do it. And what I love about you, Chris, I got to give you some chaps here, is you just kind of dominate. Like, I called them to talk to you and you're like, I'm going to move freight from Arizona to California. Yeah. And I was like, okay. Very specific. I was like, this is friggin' awesome. And we met a broker this week. I loved this guy. We met this broker this week and he goes, yeah, I just dominate I-80. And I go, well, what happens if they give you I-70 freight? And he goes, I don't want it. He goes, I just kill I-80. He goes, from Chicago or Sacramento, I bring the house. And I was like, all right. That's value.
Dude, and like I had a Harman Cheema with Cheema Freight Lines on a while back here, and he had said with his fleet, he's like, we just for a while when they started out, like now they're big enough to where they expand out. But he's like, we dominated the I-5 for a very long time. We went Seattle to LA. And that's all we did. He was like, you would be hard pressed for a while there to go a couple miles without seeing a Cheema truck going down the I-5. So it's like, I just think, like, again, when you're out there, the spray and pray methodologies, I think what honestly kills so many people in a, because it's like on building a plan, right? Because again, I think that everybody's got this vision of, I have this business, now I'm going to become a millionaire. But how are you going to start? And then what are you going to do? And what are you going to develop and build up that pipeline? Because just because people are in your area and, that doesn't mean that they're going to work with you. Right. And I think that there's a massive misconception out there that you have a LLC, you should be successful. And it's like, how are you going to build that pipeline? How are you going to fill that up? And then I think another thing too, and this is, kind of spreading it out a little bit further. So many people get that customer and then they stop selling because they're like, I'm good now. I got a customer who gives me 50 loads a week or whatever that looks like. And that's not like I'm knocking on that, but like you're never in a position where you're good because and that's why when I'm sitting here talking about, I think that the biggest exodus is going to come from freight brokers is a lot of people that I talk to, they will admit off in private, they're like, yeah, man, we got like one account that accounts for like 90% of our revenue. And it's like, and then they're always sitting there and saying like, yeah, we got to sell more, but we just don't. And I'm like, fuck, man, I would be shitting my pants if that is, and especially if you weren't selling, you know, like if you have that one account that dominates all of your volume and you're out there developing business still, that's one thing. Because again, everybody, when they're starting, you're going to get an account that's going to take up a lot of your time, or two accounts that take up a lot of your time, but you got to keep selling on top of that, because you're never in a position to where you're going to be good. Because what if your contact leaves, right? What if your contact gets a new job and they don't take you with, and then the new person comes in and kicks out their entire network? What are you going to do when you got 30 people depending on one account, essentially, that pays all their salaries? I like that. To me, is the stuff that keeps me up at night.
Yeah. Honestly, I've actually been there. Right before we launched this software, we had an account that accounted for 60% of our business in that brokerage, and we lost it. And 60% is rough. You know what I mean? And you're grinding. Everybody's on the phone. Everybody's intensity is different. And it's interesting. You know, I love to fish, you know, and there's two different types of fishing, right? There's the fishing where I'm sitting on the shore and I'm hanging out, relaxing with my kid and just throwing a line in. Hopefully I pull something. There's also the fishing when I'm depending on it to eat that night, right? Yeah. And so when you have two different mindsets, man, I tell you what, I think it's really important to keep that second mindset. Even when you get an account, you've got to be intentional with your pipeline management and just constantly, even if it's 20 minutes a day, doesn't matter, 20 minutes a day, and you're just constantly making those calls. You're constantly sending those emails. Because right now, here's what's really more interesting than anything that we've noticed, right? Because we make calls all the time. All the time we're making calls. It used to be, Nate and I would make calls. We could get a shipper in 3 to 5 calls consistently, right? Now that number has now gone from 6 to 10.
Yep.
Right. Because it's so hard. The biggest thing is that this industry is all scared now. They're freaked out, and trying to build trust is brutal now. And so you got to think all these objections are just an expression of fear. Yeah. Right. And you're just sitting there, and people just need to understand that if you don't stay consistent, it's not just going to keep building. You didn't get the shape you're in. By the way, you look great, right? You look incredible. You didn't get to that point because you worked out on Saturdays.
Oh, are you talking to me on that one?
Yeah, you look freaking great, bro. You look, I mean, I could have got a guy crush going on. You look hot, bro.
Man, I got to have Jared on. I didn't even ask him to say this, dude. I'm really talking about myself.
I'm telling you, I want to see behind that computer screen right now. Let's get it done. But you didn't get that way because you were working out on Saturdays. Yeah. You got that way because you worked out every day, and you were there doing it at night. You were doing it in the mornings and evenings, and you were watching what you were eating. God, you look good. You look friggin' awesome.
But like that's the thing. And, you know, again, like to tie in a lot of that, that's where a lot of my perspectives really started to come into place, right? Because it's like when I really took back control of my health, I would because I found myself getting so pissed off because I'm like, why didn't I lose any weight today? I'm doing all of these things right. I'm eating the right foods. I'm exercising. Nothing's happening. And then 2 to 3 weeks in, boom, I'm down 5 pounds. And I'm like, fuck, let's go. And then another 2 to 3 weeks, there's another 5 pounds. And I'm like, all right, it's that compound effect. But I would have never got there if I didn't hold myself accountable on your daily actions. And that's why I'm like, you got to build up, right? Because like there's so many people who want to go 0 to 100. And that's why I threw that 100 call marker out there, because people are like, oh, just make 100 calls a day. Yeah, eventually you could probably get to that. But why are you rushing into those things? That's where you come out the gate hot, but then all that anxiety and fear really starts to creep in because you're not getting anywhere. Like, I mean, I like what you brought up on that. It used to be 3 to 5 calls. Now it's 6 to 10 before you can even get somebody on the phone. And that, like, dude, I've seen it switch so much out here recently where now there's actually a phone option for logistics. And it's like, oh, press 7 for logistics. You're like, boom, 7. Email us this, like they're not even taking phone calls and all of that stuff. So again, what are you going to do though? Are you going to act like, Miljan here says it best, only the paranoid survive, like what are you going to do here to develop business in a market where seemingly people aren't doing anything. And your analogy of it's a lot different when you're fishing to cast a line in with your kid as opposed to fishing because you got to eat. You know, like I've been saying this a lot lately, and I'm going to say this again. I don't have a backup plan. I don't have a 401k anymore. I have every dollar I've ever made in my life invested into all of this stuff, right? Everything that where we have now is earned, right? It's dollar in, dollar out. Every dollar I make in revenue, I got to stretch into $5 of value out there to build my business and grow it up, right? So it's like that sense of urgency is there. Like I can't have a bad day, you know, like I got to show up. I have to hold myself accountable to hit my metrics every single day. And again, I built up to that, right? Like I didn't just start off doing this, you know, like I didn't just start off doing anything in business. Like everybody sucks right away. And then you get a little less shitty as you progress and you continue to hold yourself accountable in that process.
Absolutely. If you haven't read it, the Compound Effect by Darren Hardy is truly one of my favorite books. Because it really hits on what you said. And honestly, refining your processes and making sure, the guys that are making those 100 calls a day or 60 calls a day, we met with a guy that just started in the industry. He's 60 days in, wasn't he?
60 days.
How many calls was he?
100 calls a day. I mean, he's maybe talking to like maybe 15, 20 people, right?
Yeah.
The right people, but 100 calls a day easily.
And I said, well, why aren't you, because he was just making 60 calls a day. And I said, well, you've got to, those 15 people that at least took the time to talk to you, you've got to add an extra layer in today's market. And that extra layer is going to be value. Because if you're not adding value, and I'm not talking anything crazy here, by the way. I'm not talking like, hey, I'll just check it in with you. I'm talking about, hey, I found an article in your industry. I thought this was interesting. I figured I'd share it with you. Hey, I'm going to send a handwritten note, right? Hey, I'm going to just try to differentiate myself and not say that I got a damn truck in your area. Everyone has to take a moment to zig right now instead of zag with their sales pipeline and their sales conversations. And that's in their emails, that's in their texts, everybody's got to be, we've all got to sound different. We've got to step up as an industry because right now, man, people sound the same. They're all saying the same thing. We've got to have that extra layer.
And that's where they're getting lost, Chris, because we have people that send us emails and send us like their sales calls, if you will, and their follow-up calls. They're not adding the right value. They're adding value, but maybe to the wrong industry or and that's where they get lost. They're like, well, how do I add value? What's that even look like? And I get it. Like you got to dig deeper.
Yeah, you do have to dig deeper. And I can give you some examples. If you call the shipper that's in Southern California and say, hey, I see they're predicting that fuel's going to go up 23 cents over the next, 3 months. What are you doing in order to make sure that you're managing your carrier, costs and keeping that at an even flow instead of seeing a spike later in January 2025, right? Like you've got to come up with new things that make more sense to give them the value because they all have a boss. They all are being held accountable. They all have a budget, right? And you've got to put yourself in their shoes right now. And that's more important than just thinking about yourself and feeding yourself. You got to give value to them.
So your guys' customer, are you guys like helping people with their calls and their sales process and everything then? Because I just heard Nate say that they send us their recordings and stuff like that. So are you guys actively working with your users to help them out in their sales process?
Anyone and everyone, man. They'll on our YouTube people we'll drop our email and they're sending it. They're not even users, and we'll listen to it. We'll take an hour or two a day, and we're like, hey, we would have said this, or we would have done that. But yeah, we make it a pretty busy day with those.
Yeah, we've actually taken the time to write up like an analysis approach to a cold call. And I'm not perfect by any means, but I've had the opportunity to make thousands of cold calls myself. I've seen thousands of cold calls. I've also done probably thousands of walk-in cold calls as well because I was a street LTL guy 15 years ago. Right.
Oh, wow.
And I've made calls in every friggin' city in the Midwest, Chicago, Kansas City, Denver, Des Moines. Right. And so we broke it down, cold calls to, what's your tone? What's your speed? How's your accent? Right. How can we make you sound a little bit better? And we try to help people. Right. Our software is a niche-based software where you have the ability to find any kind of truck in this country and any type of shipper that would make the most sense, right? and we match those up so that you can kind of reverse engineer. Hey, I'm really good at vans in New England, and you can find those things, right? But if we can add value to them from a software's perspective, that's why we have our YouTube show, which is incredible. We just passed over 5,000 subscribers on there. I was pretty excited about that.
Yeah. Let's go.
But also, we just want to see our industry level up as a whole.
Yeah.
Because that's the big thing. All ships rise. Let's go.
I'm right there with you. And it again, like everything that I talk about on my show is stuff that I actually apply in my business, right? Like, because nothing, like ultimately, man, nothing is proprietary. And then, really fundamentally, when it boils down to it, I know that 99% of the people who listen to what we say on our podcast, it goes in one ear and out the other because they think that we're lying and they think that there's a better way out there. But like, that, like, again, I always try and, preface everything by like, hey, this is just somebody who actually cold calls shippers. All right. Like, I'm actively speaking to prospects every single day. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. You can go listen to the person out there who doesn't broker freight, who just talks, and isn't actually invested into the industry from that perspective. Or you can listen to the individuals who are actively doing the job, right? Like, and that's why I put like my good buddy, Chris Brewer from River City Logistics, him and his team has built a fucking massive company. He's out there telling people all the time what to do, what to say, like, hey, try this. And it's like, I just don't understand how people just don't see what he's giving out millions of dollars worth of value. Right there. But again, you want to go and follow somebody else who doesn't even fucking broker freight anymore, but they're trying to sell you some bullshit, and it's just like, I just don't get that. Right. Because it's like I said, I bit that email bug too. I thought there was an easier way. Well, I'm here to tell you guys again, cold calls, site visits, That's all you should be focusing on right now from a business development standpoint. Now, again, a little caveat. Is that going to work for everybody? Absolutely not. All right. I am not saying that this is going to instantly guarantee anything, but it has exponentially expedited the sales process inside of my organization. We have gotten so much more FaceTime with people. We have got so much more feedback. Again, I've already said this on the show this week, but I'm going to say it again. The site visits I went on last week, in the 4 minutes that I met with these facilities on site, I found out 6 months worth of cold calling information in 4 minutes of just showing up there. Yeah. All right. That's the ROI that I'm talking about. Whether that leads to business or not, again, I'm finding out how their business works, where I would have never got that way if I would have just cold called.
Yeah. Honestly, this is why I read so many books, is I can find out 10 years of history in about 2 hours of me sitting down and listening to this thing. You know what I mean? I'm with you completely. I think picking up the phone, being in front of these people, like Nate said earlier, that's just, it's almost everything. The weird ChatGPT flow of email and stuff. Dude, oh God, it just got so dirty and clustered, and it's just this weird funnel thing. Your emails, if you are sending emails, they better be short, to the point, and they better be really intentional with that specific shipper. Yeah. And that's really the only way that I've seen emails work. We've seen emails work, but they're really they're very specific equipment, specific lanes.
Yeah. Few and far between, right? Like if I look at it from a comparative analysis, if I send out 100 emails a day, I get more message blocked than fucking anything. But if I make 100 cold calls in a week, I'll talk to 20 people, and then I'll at least get the right person's information. I know that, all right, boom, now I'm gonna start moving that down the line of that's the prospecting line, my pipeline. I'm gonna know, like, all right, boom, now I gotta talk to Karen. All right, I got Karen's email address, I got her phone number. Now I'm gonna start my intention, I'm going towards her. And then boom, I talk to Karen. Karen's like, hey, actually, you know what? You need to talk to Tim. Tim's the overall decision maker. We make everything at a corporate level. All right, boom. Now I know that I'm going in the right direction, as opposed to the spray and pray of an email. You don't know where it's going. And then some of these ones, like, dude, I get email solicitations from other brokers to my freight brokerage email, asking me if they can quote my freight and that they can do drive-in, reefer, all this shit. And I'm like, no wonder these fucking prospects get so pissed when I call them. Because, like, if that's what's out there, like, I get why you're upset that I'm calling, because you instantly lump me in you're just like everybody else.
Yeah, you got to differentiate yourself quick to build trust and relate to these people.
Yeah, can't copy paste.
That's rampant, man. But dude, we're already almost at our 30-minute mark here. But like, what's something, again, this why I love Jared and Nate so much is not once have they even mentioned their company name here, you guys, but they're out here telling you how you guys can go out and get new business and stuff like that. And but like, what are you guys working on right now for your guys' customers? Like, what's going on with eCarrier Check?
Yeah, honestly, just making it a better experience. What's nice about us is we get their feedback and we make it happen. But we're working on trying to just help them make a better experience with finding shippers, vetting carriers, and sourcing more carriers. Like I said, we don't want you to miss out on any opportunity out there. And that's what's nice about eCarrier Check. You can go fishing anytime you want, all day. As much as you can hammer that phone, continue fishing.
Yeah, I think something that's really interesting about right now is so hard to get a new client, right? And being able to expand your current client's business in other modes and trying to diversify in there, I think is really important right now. We work with some of the larger brokers in the South, and that's what they've been doing. They just, hey, I've been covering your flatbeds. What do you got for vans, or what do you got for in the bulk world? And we're seeing people expand that way. So we help with that side of things. And then the shipper side is really interesting. We have 42,000 scraped leads in our system. Behind that, we have 200,000 scraped leads, or not fully scraped. So we're working through that. We are a startup, man, and we got 4 people that are grinding. Our 2 programmers sit 12 feet away. They're probably 18 feet away. I bet they're in the kitchen. And then, because this is what you do. And then it's Nate and I, and we're just a startup, and we're trying to eat every day, and we just try to make an impact and help people one at a time.
I love it. How does anybody reach out to find out more about what you guys got going on?
Yeah, check out our YouTube channel, eCarrierCheck.com. We're always posting on there. We do live cold calls. We do a lot of different value things for carriers and brokers to kind of help them get direct shippers or direct brokers, or just how to run your business. We want to help you guys get there, because I got a lot of scars and Nate's got a lot of scars. So check out our YouTube channel, or check out eCarrierCheck.com. You can sign up for a demo, or just give us a call, man. We answer the phone. Yeah. It's us, man. It's us.
I won't put you on hold, I promise.
Yeah. We don't even have hold music. I don't know what to tell you. It's us. So, this is what we do. But 5-year anniversary is coming up, and I'm super jacked for it. I think, honestly, we're going to go Nebraska style. We're going to deep fat fry a prime rib, and we're going to just in Miller Lights, and we're just going to enjoy life.
I love it.
It's coming out. We may just go live and it's just a deep fat fried prime rib. We don't care.
Dude, there we go. I love that. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for joining me. As always, you guys, if you guys can't find Nate or Jared or eCarrier Check online, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in contact with them. As always, if you guys got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.